chat. Use the chat function. And if you look for questions for Sonja, admin in a space, the questions will be picked up and we'll look at them at the end. So that's everything from me. Over to Sonja, welcome, and enjoy tonight's talk, everyone.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And thank you to Jane and Manchester for hosting this program. And welcome to all of you participants. And it's really lovely to meet you this spring evening and to talk about such a nice topic, sustainable happiness. And this series of environment talks hosted by the Manchester Brahma Kumaris Center is actually part of a preparation for the coming climate change conference that will take place in Glasgow in November. We are a group of BKs, both from international and from UK and from Scotland, who are meeting now every 2 weeks to prepare for this conference. And Ruth from Manchester, she's part of this group. So a special thank you to Ruth for this idea to help us all to prepare for the conference. And today, I hope we can inspire each other to increase our sustainability and to increase our happiness. Together, we can actually inspire each other to take better care of ourselves and to take better care of the planet. And I know in the text for this invitation, it mentioned the World Happiness Index and that the Scandinavian countries score very high on this index. I think Finland has been on the very top now for a few years, but Sweden used to be there and Denmark especially. And myself, I'm Swedish, but since the last 30 years I live in Denmark. So you can call myself a Scandinavian if you like. And I've read some of the reports, and I have also read some of the interpretations on why Scandinavia scores so high on this World Happiness Index. And for sure, we are welfare states here. So the social security means a lot in this index, that we have governments and we are sure that they step in and help if we become unemployed or if there is illness or any financial problems. So we have a very well-functioning social security system. And that's of course worth remembering why the happiness index is high. But when you live here, you see, and you talk to people about this World Happiness Index, then people say, oh, I wonder if we are happier than anyone else in the world. And it doesn't really mean very much to people living here. And I suppose wherever you live, there is an everyday life with ups and downs. But it also reminds me of that happiness is actually a very personal thing. Myself, I'm a nurse. Also, I've been working with a general practitioner, 2 different practitioners for 20 years. And we have so many patients calling in. And you see they sound very unhappy and they're quite complaining and they have a bit of pain and quite demanding. But if you start talking to these patients and go a little bit deeper behind the complaining facade, or there is actually quite contented, happy person. And we have some patients, they are the totally opposite, that on the outside they look healthy and fit and have a good career, fit in very well in society. But if you start talking to them, you find a deeply unhappy person inside there. So, and I know many of you might have been traveling to India and because you're connected to Brahma Kumaris in one way or another. And you know the feeling that you meet these poor street kids, but their eyes are so happy, so much alive. And at the same time, we can meet people here in Denmark and Sweden, where the eyes are really empty and quite unhappy. So the thought for today was to inspire you to make your own 5 keys to sustainable happiness. So I have identified 5 keys for myself, because I realized I can only share my personal story with you. So I would encourage you to take out pen and paper and start making some notes for yourself as I talk. And to each one of the 5 keys, I have identified an action that works for me. So maybe you can also identify your own action that you think would work for you as we go along. And this word, this phrase, sustainable happiness, is actually a well-defined term, you can say. It's an acknowledged definition. And you can go to a university in the US, I found out today, and get a certificate in sustainable happiness. And there are books written about sustainable happiness. So this talk today, as I said, is my personal journey. And if you want to find out more, you go ahead and go to the internet. And I have the opportunity today to share a bit with you how it is to be a spiritual person living in Scandinavia and have an interest in environment and see how that all fit together. But I would like to start by sharing the definition of sustainability with you. So I will actually share the screen and start the presentation here. And yes, today we're talking about the 5 keys to sustainable happiness. And here we have the definition of sustainability. Sustainability, the term was coined in 1987 by Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the environment minister in Norway at that time. And it says sustainability means meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But the way we translated sustainability in Scandinavia, it's actually long-lasting. So that's another way to define it, something long-lasting. Or another definition could be the way parents look after their child or children, or the way a gardener looks after his garden or the flowers. So we get the feeling of sustainability means something long-lasting, something where I don't take too much, but I always make sure it's enough for the future also. And in Brahma Kumaris, we talk about the happiness that lives inside us is the long-lasting happiness. And the happiness that comes from the outside is the one that lasts short-lasting. That's the happiness that are connected to the things that comes and goes. So that's always good to have in the back of the mind, the happiness is inside me. But we have different things in life that triggers it. So let's start and see what I came up with. So the first time I put was time in nature. And here is my flip over. It's like I'm doing a workshop with you, even you're online. So you can put down your own kind of thoughts or inspirations. Because time in nature, I can be myself and I slow down. And you can get the feeling that peace is natural and we can be together. Most important, I can have a sense of wonder in nature, the wonder of the moment. And the reason why I chose this picture is because I had 2 big realizations about walking barefoot in the grass. And some friends of mine living in here in Denmark, they have their grandchild visiting. This is 2 summers ago when we could travel. And that grandchild was living in Hong Kong. And it was his first time in Denmark. And this kid came out in the garden, and we saw it actually. He took the shoes and the socks off, and he was 5 years, and for the first time ever, he walked barefoot in the grass. And you should have seen his sense of wonder. Wow, every day, the whole summer, he did nothing else than walking barefoot in the grass. And it's such an enriching experiences, something that touches you. And maybe we should do these things more often as adults. I did a workshop once in Global Retreat Center, which many of you will know, and we were going to do a walking meditation outside. And it was a bit rainy, so the grass was wet. And I was talking to myself, can I ask them to take the shoes off or not? And I thought, okay, we try. So I asked everyone to take the shoes off and walk barefoot in wet grass. And you see, it was such an amazing experience. And some of the participants that told me afterwards that this was the highlight, not the meditation, not the workshop, but walking barefoot. And for some, it was like 10, 20, 30 years ago. So this sense of wonder is very enriching and increase our happiness. So my feeling is go out there, talk to trees, embrace the trees, hug the trees, listen to the birds, see the sky, the clouds formation, get this sense of wonder. And during the pandemic here in Denmark, they did an investigation of, after the first lockdown, what people will change when we come back to a normal society again, or whatever you call it, after the pandemic. And the first one on the list, everyone said, I will spend more time in nature. Because the lockdown made everyone, that's the only thing they could do, is they could go out for a walk. And they realized, okay, I will do more of this in the future, spend time in nature. Second on the list was that the realization that people and friends are important in my life. And third on the list, if it interests you, was that we want to have more opportunity to work from home in the future. And when we are on this note with the kids and the barefoot grass, I just wanted to share with you that there is a psychological definitions called nature deficit disorder. And it's the idea that human beings, especially children, are spending less time outdoors, and they believe that this change results in a wide range of behavioral problems. So if you got kids, make sure we are out in nature with them, because they will have less personality problems as adults. This is what this indicates. And maybe it's never too late to start climbing trees. So my action here to this point would be that, can we have a sense of wonder moment every day, even if we live in the cities? I started to collect a small moment of happiness list. And I have such good fun with my small moments of happiness list. So I can only recommend it. You know, if I come back from travels, I used to have things like, wow, I can drink water from the tap. And that would come on the list. Or sometimes it's like a cloud formation, or this duckling here, is soon time for the ducklings. They are the biggest wonder. So that's my first key. Get out there and slow down and spend lots of time in nature and be touched by the sense of wonder. So second key here is my peace triangle, contentment. You see, I love this triangle. Peace leads to contentment, and contentment leads to simplicity, and simplicity then leads to further peace. So simplicity today, in all environment research, we find out that we are spending too much of the earth resources than it is available. So we are not leaving enough of the earth resources for future generations. That's for sure. That's very well documented. So we are spending too much. So we need a more simple life. But if that simplicity in life is not going to sound boring or not so fun, it needs to be supported from the inside. So when I am contented in life, I'm happy inside, I would naturally buy more, spend more, consume less. And I would feel happy with simplicity. And simplicity actually means an uncomplicated life. And who doesn't want an uncomplicated life? So an uncomplicated life, there's more peaceful life. And the more peace I have, the more contented I become. So here are two slogans. That's two of my favorite slogans. And I think many Scandinavians would recognize themselves in this. The simple is beautiful and less is more. And I would love to hear what your take is on this and how you understand it and how you live by it. But one way of living by these two slogans would be to declutter your house, to declutter your life, and to declutter the mind. And today out there are so many good advice on the internet on how to do decluttering actually. To declutter my mind, I need to, mind sometimes is fragmented. So I need to unfragmentate my mind. And that's what's happening in meditation for many of us. But we can also train our eyes to see beauty everywhere, or seeing what immediately looks ugly. There is something beautiful. And I can train my eye to do this both with physical things, but also in personality and in anything I don't like. I can train my eyes to see the beauty. Okay, that was point 2. So let's see what comes number 3. And number 3 key is love and compassion. And I was thinking maybe I should have put this first. You know, love, everything is about love in the end. That's my feeling. All-encompassing love. Not love for one person or one thing, but this all-encompassing love that opens your heart. And I put down a few kind of brainstorm with myself here. But the first, you see Rumi, I'm sure you know Rumi, the Iranian writer, and we have one person who came to the center, and she mentioned here a new phrase by him, which I new to me, which I haven't heard before, and I read it to you. Easy to understand the words when others speak, but when you understand others' silence, you have understood love. And I thought it was so beautiful. Silent love. You see, that's what you have with the animals sometimes. It's silent love, isn't it? Or you can have silent love in nature. And you can have silent love between people. So it's important to explore what love and compassion means for me. Friendship is very sustainable, a good source of sustainable happiness. So make sure there is time to cultivate friendship. And here the picture is also very beautiful. If you see the world with a vision of love, you will find everything beautiful and meaningful. So how to practice this vision of love? That's my question to you. How I started was to never have any negative thoughts about the self. And I think it's forbidden, actually. I can put myself on course again and I can understand my mistakes. But negative self-talk, no use. So if I want to understand love and compassion, I got to start with the self, and that's the most difficult person to start with. But you see here, I also put, if you read, when we look with the vision of love, our vision expands. So I wanted to connect it to the environment, because you can say, what has love got to do with the environment and with climate change and with sustainability? And in a sense, you can say it's got everything to do with it. Because if the definition of sustainability is how a mother looks after her child, then we understand it's got everything to do with love. And there was a biologist from Chile who's done some research on this. He's called Maturana. And he's talked about systemic seeing and holistic worldview. And he writes that nature and climate change takes a long time. So like nature takes a long time to react. So the climate change and the nature catastrophes we see today, they started a long time ago. So it takes a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades for nature to come to the sort of urgency we have today. So he means, this researcher, that with love, I can expand my vision. And I can see the long-term effects of my actions. And if I become fearful, or if I become blinded by self-interest and selfishness, my worldview will shrink. And I will only see next step. I will have a short-term vision. So in order to understand the consequences of our thoughts and actions in terms of environment, it is very important to expand our worldview, also in time, also broad perspectives. And that happens if I come from a position of love. And we understand when we are fearful, then my worldview shrinks and I often become very selfish and I think of me and I'm not thinking of future generations. So I have another slide here on love and compassion, which is an old saying in Native American tradition, that if there were no animals on the planet, then human beings would feel very lonely. And I would wonder if you agree with me here. Actually, my dad, he's a farmer. He was a farmer from Sweden. He's not alive anymore. But when he became older, his hearing became bad. He didn't hear very well. So the last few years, he couldn't even hear the birds. And I remember how sad it was for him. It was like a grief for him not to hear the birds. And it was very like awakening to see how that affected one person not to be able to hear the birds anymore. Okay, so now we have number 4, down to earth. And I've been thinking a lot about this key and I didn't know how to phrase it. And finally I came down, okay, I got to mean down to earth. And what do I mean with down to earth? And I wouldn't say it's particular to Scandinavians or anything. Anyone can be down to earth. And here I put 2 pictures. One is the founder of Brahma Kumaris, Brahma Baba as we call him, and this is one of my favorite pictures. He's standing with a camel baby. And as we know, Brahma, he had very high spiritual aspirations. And he was a very highly enlightened person, with high aims, and reached his spiritual aim. But at the same time, very down-to-earth person. Very practical, very natural, very simple, uncomplicated. And I found that these down-to-earth people, practical, they also have a lot of humor, actually. And the other person is my dad, and you see him in the Swedish forest. And he's also a very down-to-earth person, but very wise and had a lot of humor. And you see above there it says self-contained. And in Scandinavia, actually in Danish, there is an expression called to rest in oneself. And you can't translate it. Og hvile i sig selv. And I looked it up, and the closest in English would be self-contained, but they actually literally read to rest in oneself. And I think that's a down to earth. You're sort of not so easily impressed by others. And you're not trying to impress others either. You're just yourself. And here in Scandinavia, you wouldn't be able to tell from people's way of dressing or what position they have. Or, you know, the way people speak to each other is very natural and down to earth. And here, for example, I went to an environment talk the other, maybe it's a year ago, 2 years ago. And the environment minister come on her bicycle, put the bicycle outside, walks up, talk to a few people, and give a fantastic presentation and go home on her bike. And I find that's very down to earth, very natural. But where does this come from? Because you could connect down to earth with wisdom and humility. So in a sense, it's also the education system. It starts with education, isn't it? Even though we are spiritual student or we are student in high schools or universities, education is the key to develop wisdom and humility. And with education, I need to be open to learn and I need to listen. And you see, it can be dangerous to listen because if I really listen, I might find out that my thinking was wrong. So that's where humility comes in. So it's the opposite of arrogance. So well-educated would go together with humility and to have great listening skills. And in Scandinavia, actually, the education system is famous, especially in Finland. And they start very late. They play a lot in the beginning, have long summers, free a lot of the time. But this focus on playing in the beginning and having fun, it actually pays off later in the school because they develop greater learning abilities and they score higher on the results later on in school. So it's about finding time to play in life also. And in old Greek, in old Greece, in the old Platon schools or whatever, how far we go back, you would have art and you would have sport and then you would have the studies. And these three needs to go together in order to increase your ability to learn. So my action here today with you would be maybe to learn something new every day and to think a new thought every day, a positive thought, enlightened thought, an interesting thought. And then we have fifth key, to share and to care. And whatever you read on sustainable happiness online or in books or in university courses, this one comes up in everywhere. It's a general trend. Is if you want to be happy, you've got to find ways to share and to care for others, to make a difference every day, to be generous. And actually, together with sharing and generosity also comes gratitude. To be grateful that I can share something. And I think the pandemics and the lockdown have maybe reminded other people of that we can't take opportunities to share with others for granted, because I might be not having the opportunity to do that anymore. So gratitude for opportunities to share. And here in Copenhagen at the center, I used to do a course in inner leadership together with a consultant, a business consultant. And he was connected to one of the top companies here in Denmark and doing managing job together with the top leaders in the biggest company and very well paid. And he used to do this course for free. We had 21 hours course in the inner leadership, Friday evening to Monday lunch. And he used to say, it's my fortune to work for free from time to time. To do voluntary work is my fortune. And I thought this is such an interesting take on sharing and voluntary work. And to take an inspiration for to share, I would like us to learn from trees here. And this is a very typical Scandinavian forest. So next slide is, here you see two beautiful oak trees, and we're going to talk about the power of good wishes as we take inspiration from the trees. And the last 15 years, a lot of research has been done on trees, on trees' secret communication. And it started with a German scientist that wrote a book on the secret communication with trees. And that was translated to English and also became a bestseller in England. And he found out that the trees are connected in hubs or in families. And I'm sure many of you know this, but in case you don't, so the trees are connected, and they are not connected with the roots, because it would take a long time to run roots through the ground, but they are connected by fungus. So they have like their own network with fungus, and through this fungus, which is the invisible network underground, which we can't see, they can communicate with each other. So often there could be maybe 40, maybe more trees, they belong together to a tree community. And there, for example, if one tree is not well, the trees can send extra nutrients and extra carbon to this tree to make sure it gets well again. And they can also regulate the microclimate within their little hub, which can be a big hub actually. So they can decrease or increase the temperature to make sure that the tree, which is not well, get better quickly. And they can also protect themselves from attacks by insects or whatever. And I just heard a story from Africa that you have an animal called okapi. I hope that's the right word in English. And its favorite leaves belong to one tree, and it eats of this leaf every day. But if the okapi get greedy and eat too many leaves, the tree is saying, whoops, here is danger. So they send out the poison into the leaves. So the okapi will feel sick and not eat anymore. And the trees do this together. So the whole community of trees suddenly became poisonous. That in order to protect themselves and to make sure that the okapi doesn't eat too much. I think it's just fantastic. And within this community of trees, you would also have a mother hub, a mother tree, who is in charge of this. And I would like us to take inspiration for that, to understand that we also have our own network of people which we are connected to in an invisible way. Many people would maybe know closely 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. They maybe have a network of connections, friends, colleagues, distant colleagues, friends, people they know, people they meet in the house, in the estate, or on the bus, in the shop, maybe 100. So the people you are connected to, they are also influenced by your vibrations in the same way as the tree influence each other. So I can supercharge my network by sending out good wishes and make sure that in this vibrational, invisible network, I am the sender of good wishes, of love, of cooperation, of support. And whatever person or whatever tree in my network will absorb that for them to get better if they need. And here you have one of Brahma Kumari's very old pictures, the double tree. And it's a very beautiful picture. You see the yellow is the manifest world. And the blue is this invisible world of vibrations. So we're all connected in our vibrational world. And it manifests in our physical world. And so that's why I have to make sure that I am charged. And then, so I do that through my meditation. And then I have to make sure that every day I have a good wishes practice. And if you are a supercharger, then you can send vibrations to the whole world. And the largest tree hub of all. And you see here, you have a point of light also in this beautiful picture. So that's the connection to the divine, or to God, if you like. So that's my practice, to make sure I charge myself. And then I can charge my network with good wishes every day. So that was the 5 keys that has worked for me. And here, together, what can we do together? Yeah, we can rewrite the collective story of what a good life is. You see, the story you tell is the basis for your life. So tell the story the way you want it to be. And the story you want to have, I'm sure, you're not sitting alone on a dirty planet somewhere. That's not your dream, is it? No one's dream. No, we're sitting on a beautiful planet together. And if you ask most people what they really want in life, many people would say, well, I want time in nature and I want time with family and friends. They want to feel connected. And these 2 ways of living is very low carbon. It's a low carbon lifestyle. And that's where my sustainable happiness lives. So if we can rewrite this collective story together, it's at least a start of what a good life is. It's not collection of many gadgets and things and many travels, but it's a feeling of purpose and meaning, and to keep dreaming, and we do that together. So to start rewriting the collective story, I got to understand that when every time I think, I create something. So that's how thoughts are connected with climate change. Because the way I think will be the way I take decisions. And the decisions we have taken and the attitude we have had is causing our society today, and is causing climate change in the very end. So that's what makes us human beings also, the ability to create, which starts with my ability to think and to choose what thoughts I have. So I create my own world by my thinking and my lifestyle. And it means that together we can co-create our world by our contribution to the collective thinking and lifestyle. So I would say thank you. And here you have a meditation picture. It's a carrot, I think. Yes, it's a carrot. If you slice most fruit, you'll find this beautiful meditation light in tomatoes, in carrots, in kiwis. Nature is just full of wonders. So I would like us to do a meditation together now, and then hopefully we have some questions and we can share or comment together, and I can hear a bit about your keys. So I will do a meditation together with you now. It's 5 minutes, and I stop this sharing, and I will start another sharing where I have the meditation. So just 1 second here. Here it comes. So I'll ask you to sit relaxed and take a deep breath and enjoy the wonder of this merry moment we have together.
In my mind, I go to a place in nature, a place of greenery and peace. In my thoughts, I emerge the wind, and I can hear the leaves of the tree moving in the breeze. The wind whispers secrets in my ear, and I understand. I can feel the sunshine on my face, softly warming my heart and soul. The birds are chirping in the background and singing songs of happiness and joy. I emerge the feeling of belonging to the planet, to nature, to the animals and all living beings. I feel safe in being forever connected to this global family of all living beings, and being connected to the world around me. I will remember this moment if I ever lose hope for our common future of harmony for all. Okay, welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed that meditation. And let's see if we have any questions or comments that come in.
That was remarkable, Sonja. That was so inspiring.
Thank you.
So lovely. I could feel my mercury of happiness rising as I was listening. And I always love things that give me a practical thing to work on.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's no questions in the chat, so I don't know if anybody wants to put a question quickly in the chat, or if you're all as blissed out as I feel. That was so nice.
If there comes no question, then I thought maybe I could share a little bit about the climate change conference that will happen. So if there comes any questions, let me know.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think it's important for everyone to know, because the eyes of the world will be on the UK and on Glasgow in November this year, and it's actually only half a year left. And we don't know yet if it's going to be online, or if it's going to be a hybrid version, or if it's going to be a in-person conference. So this is not clear yet. Maybe we don't get to know that until September or so. But all the environment ministers and from the whole world, 120 countries will meet. Plus all the civil society will meet. Today there are about 800 civil society organizations that will come. And plus the media, of course. And Brahma Kumaris is a registered observer organization to the climate change conferences. And we've been to every climate change conference since 2009, which was here in Copenhagen, the first one. And our main contribution, our umbrella theme is consciousness and climate change. And we work also very closely together with all the other religions. And you see the interfaith work in environment and climate change works very well, because all the different spirituality traditions or the religions, we forget our own scriptures or our own theology, if you want, because we work together for a higher purpose, for Mother Earth. So you never have a feeling if this one is a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or whatever, but we work together to save nature in a sense. So that's very inspiring work. So we have a delegation. Normally we are about 10 people that go to the climate change conferences, and we arrange workshops and talks, both. And we always do that together with other organizations. So we would work together with so many different organizations. Solar Cooker Alliance, for example. Brahma Kumaris are very big in solar energy, especially in India. So we do a lot of work on solar. And people very much appreciate when the spiritual organizations also do practical work and also contribute to the environment, not only with meditation, but also with technical, practical work like solar energy. And the theme for Glasgow will very much be on resilience and adaptation. Adaptation means I need to adapt to changing realities and changing circumstances. Things are not going to be the same in terms of climate change and nature. And resilience means the way I can bounce back from catastrophes, how strong I am. And of course, you can have a resilience of a society, of a community, of a country, but we can also have inner resilience.
Sonja, I just need to interrupt you there. We've just got a couple of questions come through, and I think somebody did have the hand up. They might have put the question in the chat. So there's a couple of questions about if we want to, how can we be contented at work? If we want to progress at work, how can we be contented at the same time? And there's also, if people have been mean to us, how do we forgive them? A couple of questions there, just to have a think about.
I mean, it's a very old dilemma. Is it possible to change and make effort and progress and be content at the same time? And that's in all areas of life. And it is actually possible because I can be open to learn and I can be ambitious, but I can still be contented. You see, in a way, I need to be happy with myself, with who I am, because I am what I am and I will never be anyone else. But it doesn't mean I'm not making effort on my personality, because I have many things I need to change, my arrogance or my greed or whatever. So I'm working on myself all the time, but I'm also a contented person. And it can be the same at work. I can be happy with my work and with my task and do it with joy and contentment. But I can still strive for my career, to learn more, to take courses, to increase my network.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Tell us the Nordic secret. I'm assuming that's tell us the Nordic secret to the happiness.
Yeah, the Nordic secret, they say, is actually in the education system. And we have here in Denmark, they have something called folk schools. So even as an adult, you would go to a high school for 1 or 2 weeks to learn new things. And so if in the Nordic city, it is actually education. And also for women, of course, very well educated women
Education, the key.
We had the other question about how can you forgive when others are mean to you? And you see, forgiveness is a very big topic, and we can do another talk on that actually. But, and I will just share my personal experience, even though I don't know your story. But for me, I would start by forgiving myself for having these feelings for another person. You see, so in a way, I forgive myself for having these feelings. And when I forgive myself, I can easily forgive others. And to forgive oneself, it takes a lot of love and take a lot of respect. And in terms of others, I learned a very easy conflict resolution tool, and it is to reflect on what the other person's intention would have been. You see, I can have a very pure intention, but on the way out, things get twisted and I express myself or do something which is not in relation to my intention. But my habits took over or some other things took over. So if a person has harmed me or been mean to me, maybe their intention was good, but their habits took over. So if I can clarify the intention with them, then I have it more easy to find some kind of compromise. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left for the last question.
Okay, there's a question. You've given us some lovely ideas, lots of things to think about how we achieve happiness and sustainability. How do you think we can get more people in the world to follow this sound advice?
Yeah, that's the best question. You give a talk yourself. You know, we got to share with everyone, you know. Here in Denmark, they did such an interesting television program. They asked a normal family who eats lots of meat every day and maybe not the healthiest food, and they asked them if they want to do an experiment for 2 weeks and only eat organic food, and if they made a difference, and the television company paid them the extra cost. So they invited this family back into the studio again, and after 2 weeks they shared their experience, and they said they had increased well-being, more energy, and the whole family of 4 people were amazed that only after 2 weeks less chemicals in the body can have such a remarkable result. And that's a good story to share. So maybe all of you, if you go out and share your good stories, maybe become more of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have to stop there because it's just come to 7:30. Thank you so much for your sharing. And I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for coming along. Really interesting talk, and just to remind people that they're welcome to join our future programs in the space, including online seminars and online lunchtime meditations. All the details are on the Inner Space website, and you can also sign up to the website to be notified about future events. But one event we really want to draw people's attention to at the moment, on May the 22nd, we've got a special event coming up. Just forgot to put my video on. There it is, I'm on now. We've got a special event coming up on the 22nd of May in the evening, 6:30 till 7:45. And it's a celebration of 10 years of Manchester Inner Space. And we've got Sister Gente, who's the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris, coming along to share the evening, to give the talk. on embracing changes by exploring pathways to optimism. The details will be on the website, so everyone can have a look on the website and come along and sign up to that. So a recording of this tonight will be on Facebook, and there should be a slide coming up, I think, at the end. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sonja, and thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. And I wish you a peaceful and enjoyable rest of your evening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.